Hey guys, what is going on? This is Michael with Dweeb Culture, and as always, I'm joined with my fellow dweeb, Mitch,
Hey guys.
and Cole, who normally joins us, is actually halfway across the country right now on vacation. Apparently, this YouTube channel is too stressful for him, so he needed to bounce out this week.
I just like that the heads up was, hey guys, not gonna be able to make tonight. I'm instead on vacation. Oh, cool, dude.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Cole. We'll readjust everything. Anyway, we will pursue on. And we have a new episode of The Bad Batch that we are reviewing today. Today is Cornered, which is episode number 5?
4.
Number 4. And so it is a 25-minute episode. It is the shortest episode that we've had so far. Not that is including title credits and all that stuff like that. So actually the episode went by very quickly. It's probably all in all probably about a 20-minute episode.
Which is okay because the plot of this is pretty much, hey, we took that character we introduced in The Mandalorian and put them in this one too. And that's pretty much the plot of this episode.
Like literally what happened in this episode, what you need to know moving forward is they went to a planet to get supplies. They didn't get supplies and they discovered that they're outlaws and people are after them.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what happened.
Yep. Fennec Shand, the associate and accomplice of Boba Fett from The Mandalorian, makes her appearance, obviously, in kind of like the post-Clone Wars era. So we're talking 25 years before The Mandalorian takes place. And she's, she's made her appearance in the Bad Batch show.
Yeah, and so the name actually wasn't said aloud. So Mitch knows that from lore, as opposed to the show telling us. But I don't really think that's a spoiler or anything.
No, it's not really
major.
much a spoiler. I can't imagine that too much importance can actually be done with her, other than maybe she's a reoccurring character. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, really, I only have one short page of notes on this episode, and there just wasn't too much that went on. We saw the girl kill like 3 or 4 people, including 2 of the Star Wars officers on that world.
Star Wars officers? Do you mean the Imperial officers, or do you mean the police officers? What are we talking about?
Yeah, they were like the police officers,
okay.
Right? So she shot them on motorcycles and then they both crashed.
That's like calling them Star Trek officers. Oh yeah, they're Star Trek officers because they're officers in Star Trek.
They are officers. There are chief officers in Star Trek.
Yeah, but they're not called Star Trek officers.
Yeah, they could be. And then she just straight up murders a dude. She jacks his car, and he's like, "What the heck's going on?" And she grabs him and throws him out the window to plummet to his death.
I'm pretty sure it was a pillow planet, Michael.
It was a pillow. Well, later on in that episode, she jumped off and landed on another car and landed on the ground and was fine. So presumably the other guy was fine. Maybe, I don't know.
He just had to hit a few other cars on the way down.
Exactly. So I thought one of the really funny things in it was they needed to go on the planet and they went into the market, but they're wanted, right? So they can't draw a lot of attention to themselves. So that's why they say Wrecker can't go with them. But Echo decided to put on a suit to look like a droid so that nobody would recognize him. And then Hunter and Omega just decided to go as normal themselves. I'm like, what kind of consistency is this show following right now?
Well, Hunter looked like Rambo, which could be anybody. And Omega, just a kid. I guess they're thinking they're not going to focus on the kid. I don't know.
Ultimately, but that paint across his face is pretty distinctive for Hunter. So if they're looking for him, any picture is going to have him with the paint across his face.
Yeah, but in theory, that's not a birthmark. That's just paint, right? Like, he could always just remove it.
I mean, we haven't seen him put it on, so I'm assuming it's part of his character. It's part of his birthmark. I'm assuming it is a birthmark.
No, my name is Hunter. I am the paint on the face guy.
That's true. And it's the same paint every single time, so he's very consistent with that. We also see C-3PO and R2-D2 in this.
Well, kinda, not really.
That's who I assumed they were. They were actually
A
not them,
similar
but
model protocol droid, a similar model astromech droid.
to me, for all intents and purposes, they are C-3PO and R2 and two
Well,
R2-D2s.
hey, R2D2 and C3PO are actually in this universe, and at this time, they are
Oh,
with.
really?
Yeah, and at this time, they are with. They're on Alderaan with Leia's adopted parents.
Ah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the point of this episode is they wanted they introduced in the episode that they wanted to go to a planet, and then they said they can't go to that planet. They need resources, so they're like, okay, let's go to a different planet, which is
Well,
the one they ultimately land on.
they actually revealed that their ultimate plan is we want to go to this uninhabited planet and chill. And Omega's
Yeah,
like, wait, but can't we go on
Ida
space
Floor.
adventures?
Yeah, they wanted to go to Ida Floor, but I guess they ended up going to Pentora, something like that.
Neither
Portora?
one rings a bell to me.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so they needed to go there to get resources, and then they landed, and immediately the person there let the authorities know that they're there, and Tech wants to take the tracking system. I guess this is the first time I've been introduced that there's a tracking signature on this thing, so he wanted to take that out.
Scramble it, I
And
think, right?
to
Scramble their
scramble it,
signature.
yeah. And then while that was happening, they were supposed to go into town and get resources. Well, they did not get resources. So my guess is that I mean, if they're following any train of logic or consistency, the next planet they land on, they should be getting resources in the next episode, because they did not get those resources this episode. But my guess is that they're going to abandon that storyline altogether.
I don't know. I would say of the 4 episodes we've seen so far, this is the least important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And they didn't get the resources. They got hunted down by Boba Fett's, Padawan, I guess is what you call it in this universe.
No, it's just his associate.
Apprentice.
Fennec Shand is the character's name, and she is apparently older than Boba Fett. Just so you know.
Okay.
At this point in time, Boba Fett is, I think, around 12 at this point in time.
Oh, okay.
12 to 14. He's a young teenager. So she looks to be in at least her early 20s. And remember, she is a character in 25 years in The Mandalorian. So in that show, Boba Fett is, in his 40s to 50s. So, yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And then they get chased around for a little bit, and then they manage to escape and leave the planet. And that is the entire episode.
Yep.
Don't need that anymore.
You and I talked about this a little bit beforehand too, but I would say that this episode and the last episode are really setting a sloth's pace for this series moving forward. And I know this first season is supposedly 16 episodes. We're only on episode 4. But it's really proving to me that the intention for this series is kind of story of the week, villain of the week, whatever it is. We don't really have an overall direction. We don't really know where we want to take these characters, or if we do know, we've accepted that it's a long ways until we get there. And we're going to throw what essentially feels like filler episodes at you. Now, Fennec Shand, while it's cool, kinda, for fans of The Mandalorian to see her, she's such a new and unexplored character, even in The Mandalorian, that it's kind of like you're tying in a character that really not many people have a connection to. Ming Hua, I think her name is, the actress. A lot of people have a connection to her. She was on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and she's been in several other shows and movies as well. But this character, we just don't really know much about her. And the thing is, I think that it was poorly timed on the execution of the crossover, because this fall, the Boba Fett show, the Book of Boba Fett, comes out, and it's believed that this character will hold a much more important role in that show and be probably become a fan favorite show. But her involvement in season 2 of The Mandalorian was so small that it's not really something to get too excited about yet. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe they'll give her a very cool arc for this series. But as of right now, as a fan of The Mandalorian who's watched every episode and a deep fan of Star Wars, seeing Fennec Shand is not particularly exciting for just to get me interested in this episode.
Yeah, it kind of seems like maybe they might be setting that interaction up for later on. Maybe they are planning on doing a crossover so
Maybe.
they can get people excited for the Boba Fett thing later on. But this really just kind of seemed like a filler episode, a fan service episode. They didn't know what to do, and they wanted to stretch out the season a little bit. It seems like, and they didn't really know what to do. And they're like, "Hey, let's bring in a side character from a different storyline and throw him in here, and that'll be the big thing of the
Yeah, and,
episode."
and
You get to
even
see that.
then, we don't see any major way that she connects with them other than presumably she's hunting a bounty, maybe. That's about it.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like Hunter knew her. When as soon as he first saw her, he's like, "Oh, I know who you are." But then later on in the episode, he's like, "She must be a bounty hunter."
Yeah.
So it did. So I thought they were going to introduce some type of personal interaction or experience between the two, like maybe they used to work together or something like that. But they did not go that route.
Yeah, I thought so too. And you're right with that scene later in the episode, they essentially, completely squashed that line of thinking. It was more or less he just looked at her and knew that's a bounty hunter, and then it
Yeah.
was on from there.
They were also trying to suggest that Omega was the only one that was wanted and had a bounty on her.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
odd.
but obviously they all would. So I
Well,
don't know. I don't know if this was them trying to show that Omega's special. And the clone trooper head people, they know that's why they want Omega specifically.
I think it is because
But
if you remember
yeah.
in the last episode, they talked about the original sample from Jango Fett deteriorating, and they would need another sample.
Hmm.
And that was the Kaminoan aliens, the large like giraffe neck aliens. They
Yep.
said that
Yep.
the original sample that they were making clones from, the original Jango Fett sample, was deteriorating, and that if they wanted to make more clones, they would need an additional sample. So I thought that maybe that's why Omega seems to be the target. It's perhaps she's a more perfect replica, or maybe she's a genetically altered, more perfected version of
Yeah.
Jango Fett that they want to, can continue to clone as a source. I imagine that's going to be the major plot line that's pursued this season. Is going to be what's special about Omega, and I mean, we kind of talked
Yeah.
about that since the first episode. What's special about Omega? Is she the first Force sensitive clone, or is there something else going on? They've kind of strayed away from hints at any Force sensitivity, so perhaps she's just something genetically makes her a target, and then the Bad Batch is going to protect her. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing about this episode also is they kind of went back in time a little bit with Omega's character. The last couple episodes have been about, showing that Omega, even though she's a child, she's essentially an adult and she should be treated on the team like any other team member, that type of thing. But in this episode, she clearly had childlike tendencies and had no regard as an adult member of the team. So what happened?
And that
She
almost gets
was
them in
playing,
trouble. Yeah.
and that almost gets him in trouble. She was playing with a toy. The toy got eaten. She didn't tell him that, hey, I'm gonna go after this dog and get this toy. No, she
Mm-hmm.
just runs off, and then she gets him into nowhere. And then she trusts a stranger to go with her, who ends up being somebody who has ill intentions for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has to be picked up by Wrecker, and Wrecker takes her home, and it says, go back to the ship. And then she gets up and then almost falls off the ledge. So it's just like, okay, so is she a part of the team or is she a burden on the team and she's a child? Like they're kind of switching lanes a little bit because their past couple episodes have been trying to prove that she's that she's a functioning
Yeah,
member of the team, and now she's not anymore. So
I agree.
um,
I agree. I very much got that sense too. We'll see. I mean, I think we nailed it on the head when we said that she's going to be kind of a juvenile character that they added in only so that the kids watching the show have a character they feel they can connect with, which
yeah, yeah,
okay. I mean, I guess that was kind of the role of Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, but then she evolved to be more than that. You had episodes that would not revolve around Ahsoka at all, or that she wouldn't even be featured in, and it would just be just Anakin or Obi-Wan. And I don't know. I think it's kind of an antiquated style of looking at these shows where if we want them to have children's appeals, we have to make it star a child. And I just don't think that's true. I mean, the Avengers have a remarkably huge appeal amongst children of all ages. There are no child Avengers. And it's almost like a classic 80s action film type mindset where you would get a lot of 80s films where they would introduce like a child character to either be the sidekick of the hero or to be the one that the story follows as they introduce some sort of action hero. And they very much kind of brought that back with this. So I'm curious to see where
yeah,
it goes. It's not like they can't make great stories with children. I mean, we saw in the Mandalorian the father son dynamic between the Mandalorian and the child there really carried the show. And it could be that we just kind of are going for the familial tone between the Bad Batch being this odd bunch and Omega joining them and them kind of developing their family dynamics. That could be what they hope for character development to carry this show forward. And I can see kind of the hints of that. I just don't think we're quite there yet. And we're at this point now in the show where, some things about it are really interesting. Obviously, being a fan of Star Wars and the continued like lore building is interesting. And I do kind of like the Ninja Turtle dynamic between the characters, but to be honest, this shows the hook hasn't quite grabbed me yet. We're
yeah,
watching every episode every week, and it's fine. It's not like I feel, like I don't like it or anything like that. But we're on episode 4 and the hook is not in. There's not
yeah,
that man, what's going to happen next episode type of mindset going into it. It's like, well, probably something small. Then maybe they finally make it to a planet and get some supplies, or maybe they, you know, take a detour and stop somewhere and have to rescue a village from some, criminals, and then you know what I mean? Like it's very much a
yeah,
whatever happens this episode, it's pretty safe to say right now, based off what we have so far, it's not going to be story changing. It might just be one step along an eventual path that leads
yeah.
to a overall direction. I just hope that they establish what that overall direction is
Yeah,
because
and that's kind of been the problem I've seen with these episodes is that every conflict is introduced in the episode and it's resolved by the end of the episode, which can be nice, but you also need an overarching storyline to carry
yes.
you through until the next episode. They just left the planet. What are they doing the next
Well,
episode?
the problem
Have no
is
idea.
the
Have no idea what they're doing the
the,
next
the
episode.
problem
What were they going to
is
do?
that the Clone Wars had success without an overarching storyline. That's
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
problem is.
Well,
Now, there's
even
been
not even an overarching storyline, just something to do in the next episode. This past episode, like coming off of last week's episode, did you have any idea that they were low on supplies? No. Did you have any idea that they needed to go stop to another planet to get rid of the tracking the scattering device? No, you had no idea. Like
no. The
every
only
episode, you
thing
have
was
no idea what's happening the next
yeah.
episode. So
The
why are you
only
so why
thing
are you
was
gonna
them
go
trying to
watch it?
find a home. Them trying to find a home was the only thing that we knew
Sure.
was going to be a part of the story. But there's two major examples here. There's two major canon animated series here that Disney has put forth: Clone Wars and Rebels. Now, Rebels, each season did more or less have like a overall story and point that it worked towards in the end. There were definitely episodes like this where it's like, hey, this is a one-off where we run into, you know, Jabba the Hutt or whoever. But
Yeah.
each season kind of, okay, we knew there was this villain, we're on this planet, we're specifically trying to do this one thing on this planet, and then we reach there. In Clone Wars, it was like, hey, here's a collection of 12 episodes, and this is season 1. And they all kind of furthered this storyline of the Clone Wars are going on. But ultimately, because we knew what happened in episode 3 already, they didn't feel like they had to work towards anything. I'm curious what they do with the Bad Batch. I would hope it's more like in the vein of Rebels, where we're going to introduce a storyline and then try to meet an actual conclusion to that story in that season, and an overarching story with all the character development. Right now, it seems like it's more in the tone of Clone Wars, where it's like, nah, here's another episode. Just, this is what happens.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
See ya. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens next episode. Are they actually going to need to make another pit stop to get resources because they didn't get the resources in the last one? Or are they going to start a brand new storyline?
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to do it.
The sad thing is, there were good things in this episode. The flying car chase scene had some really cool animation, and how they animated the planet and how they styled the planet that they were on was very cool. I'm still blown away by the graphics. I think that the graphics of the series is amazing. It looks very, very good.
That might be where they put all their budget instead of the story development.
But that being said, like, if I had to give a 1 to 10 score on this episode, we're talking like a 5.5 or a 6. I'm not giving it very high. There just was not enough. Not enough of anything to really hold our interest.
Yeah, very true. But we will persevere. And if you guys are watching with us, we will stick to it. Hopefully it starts picking up. If not, then we'll have to answer some questions. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below. Did my sound go out? Or am
nope, I can hear you still. It's just a little different.
Perfect. Yeah. Sorry about that. My internet's been out over here last night, all day yesterday. They've been working on the internet over here, the infrastructure. So hopefully it's starting to pick up soon. In any case, please like, comment, subscribe down below. Mitch, I know you are working on another series on the side, correct?
Just wrapped up the Castlevania review. We're going to start something new very soon. Not quite ready to announce that yet, so we'll see.
Fair enough. All righty. Well, guys, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And as always, live long and may the Force be with you.
Later, guys.